My husband feels sorry for me having to work during my pregnancy and suggested that I take a leave of absence and go home. I felt his concern and smiled as I agreed. However, I was surprised to find that he had given my position to his late brother's wife and had even transferred the project I had negotiated to her. After a heated argument, I unfortunately had a miscarriage. On the day I was discharged, I took a taxi to a nearby law firm to consult about divorce-related matters. After receiving the drafted agreement, I returned home. As soon as I stepped inside, I noticed there were other people in the house. 3 people were sitting at the dining table. My husband, Jack's late brother's wife, Sarah, and her child, Amy. Hearing the sound of my entrance, the 3 of them turned their heads at the same time. Seeing me, Jack couldn't help but widen his eyes. "Emma, why are you back?" he asked. I walked into the room with a blank expression and noticed they were having hot pot, with a half-eaten small cake on the table. Jack saw me staring at them, and hurriedly explained, "Emma, I'm sorry. I forgot to pick you up." Sarah quickly explained, "Emma, I'm sorry. Today is Amy's birthday. I pulled Jack to celebrate with Amy, which made him forget to pick you up. I'm really sorry." As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Jack was also busy comforting her. "It's okay. Don't blame yourself. It's my fault for being careless and forgetting that Emma was being discharged today. It has nothing to do with you." I didn't pay much attention to their conversation and lowered my head to look at the little girl in front of me. "Amy, Auntie didn't know that today is your birthday. I'm really sorry for not preparing a gift for you," I said. The little girl glanced at me disapprovingly and huffed, "I don't want your gift. Amy, you must be polite. Hurry up and apologize to your aunt," Sarah said as she pulled Amy, indicating her to apologize to me. However, Amy remained still, instead glaring at me with a vicious look in her eyes. I smiled slightly and said carelessly, "Amy, Auntie actually prepared a gift for you that you will definitely like. Do you want to know what it is?" Hearing this, Amy's interest seemed to be piqued. She tentatively asked, "What gift is it?" "This gift is to let your Uncle Jack be your dad. What do you think?" Upon hearing this, Jack's expression instantly became serious. He was about to speak, but was disapprovingly interrupted by Amy. "What kind of gift is this? I've already called Uncle Jack Dad for a long time." "Amy, don't speak carelessly." Sarah tugged at Amy's arm and then said to me apologetically, "Emma, don't listen to Amy's nonsense. She always loves to talk nonsense." I did not look at her, but instead shifted my gaze to the tense man over there. Under my icy gaze, Jack felt a tightness in his chest, and his expression appeared somewhat unnatural. He hesitantly explained, "No, Emma, listen to me. There was an event at Amy's school before, and the kids needed their parents to participate. You know, Harry is gone, so that's why I went, really." I nodded slightly to indicate my understanding. "It's fine, it's not important, no need to explain." After saying that, I took out the prepared divorce agreement and handed it to Jack. Jack took the document, and upon seeing its contents, his eyes widened in an instant. "Emma, what do you mean by this? Do you want to divorce me?" Hearing the word divorce, Sarah couldn't help but show a look of surprise. However, after the surprise, a trace of smug satisfaction flashed in her eyes. I smiled slightly and thought to myself that he really is an idiot, unable to even conceal his true feelings. Yes, take a look at the terms above. If there are no issues, please sign. We can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau later when we have time. "Emma, why are you getting a divorce? Is there something I did wrong?" Jack said this with a serious expression, as if he really didn't understand why I wanted a divorce. At this moment, I started to doubt whether he was truly ignorant or just acting too well. "You did a great job, but this is a gift I got for Amy, so don't let me down." After saying that, I turned to Amy and smiled. "Amy, happy birthday." Then, I went straight back to the bedroom to start packing my luggage. I proposed the divorce after careful consideration. I met Jack in university. My family is of average condition, and he is an orphan, so we are considered a good match. Sarah and Amy are the wives of Jack's good friend Harry. Harry and Jack are both orphans who grew up together in an orphanage, sharing a deep bond that is closer than that of biological brothers. Unlike my situation with Jack, Harry and Sarah's story is like that of the protagonists in a novel. One is an orphan, penniless, while the other is a young lady from a wealthy family. The relationship between the two has gone through many ups and downs, with breakups and reconciliations that evoke much reflection. Although Sarah came from a wealthy background, her life was not fulfilling. Her mother passed away early, and her father remarried, having a pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The stepmother treats her very poorly. She appears polite on the surface but often bullies her behind her back. Later, Sarah's family faced financial difficulties due to problems with the project. Her father hoped she could resolve the issue through an arranged marriage, but Sarah refused and ultimately severed ties with her family, choosing to marry Harry. That year we got married, I became pregnant, and the following year I gave birth to Amy. I witnessed the love-hate entanglement between them and often sighed at how twisted their emotional journey was. They believed that after enduring these hardships they would welcome a happy rest of their lives. Unfortunately, an accident occurred last year, and Harry left us. On that rainy day, Jack and Harry were on their way home after discussing their collaboration when they collided with an out-of-control car. If it weren't for Harry's timely steering, both of them would likely have been in serious trouble. Harry held Jack's hand tightly on his deathbed, pleading with him to take good care of Sarah and Amy. I reservedly agreed to Harry's final request, and even without him mentioning it, Jack and I would make every effort to take care of each other. However, ever since Harry passed away, Sarah has been keeping her distance from us. We visited her several times, but she kept us at the door. One night, while we were fast asleep, we received a call from an unknown number. It was Amy calling, crying and pleading with Jack to save Sarah. We hurried over and found out that Sarah had fainted due to a severe cold combined with her menstrual cycle. We took her to the hospital, and Amy was crying the whole time. I comforted her for a long time before she finally calmed down. I praised her for being very smart and knowing to call for help. After all, it's truly remarkable that a 5-year-old child can think of this. Amy sniffled and said that her father had told her that if one day he wasn't around or couldn't be reached, she should call this number. We checked her phone, and the saved name was Dependence. Upon seeing these two characters, Jack's eyes immediately turned red, a big man with tears streaming down his face. Later, he explained to me that they were both orphans and could only rely on each other. If one day someone has an accident, they shouldn't trust the other person to take care of them. After getting married, they turned this promise into a commitment that if either of them faced an accident, the other would take good care of their family. To put it more directly, it's about entrusting the guardianship. That's why Jack took it upon himself to take care of Sarah and Amy. Things started to spiral out of control from that moment on. Initially, it was just occasional visits, but later it turned into daily visits, followed by phone calls and messages at any time and from anywhere. In the middle of the night, Amy had a fever, so Sarah called Jack to inform him that the water pipe at home was broken. She also called Jack because the child wanted to hear a story. Jack's stay changed from a brief visit at first 1 hour into several hours, and eventually he even began to spend the night. I have also hinted to him that it seems inappropriate for a man to go to a widow's home in the middle of the night. However, Jack just looked at me coldly and asked what was wrong. He said he promised Harry to take care of her and her daughter, and he would never go back on his word. He spoke very firmly, and all I could do was remain silent. However, as time went on, the developments increasingly felt off. I noticed that Sarah's gaze toward Jack had changed, and Amy also began to call Jack Dad instead of Uncle. Jack spends even more time with them than I do, a wife who has been married for many years. Many times, Jack would set aside important company collaborations and meetings to visit them. Some colleagues also kindly reminded me that Jack was getting too close to them. I just casually said it was nothing, and that it was all part of my duties. I was pregnant until not long ago. After becoming pregnant, Jack advised me to go home and rest securely. His intention was to let me have a good rest and discuss it again when the time was right. In addition, I have an important project in hand, and the cooperation intention has been confirmed. As long as it progresses smoothly, the company may take a further step. But Jack said he felt sorry for me and asked me to take a break. He would handle the subsequent projects. I thought to myself that it was rare for him to care about me as his wife, So I smiled and agreed. More than a month later, I saw a colleague complaining about a troublesome leader on social media. So I asked about the situation out of concern. I learned that Sarah has taken over my position, and the previous projects have also been assigned to her. Meanwhile, over the past month, Sarah frequently took action and fired several long-term employees, which caused discontent among many people, especially two long-standing partners she offended. Upon learning of these circumstances, I immediately rushed to the company. When I pushed the door open, I saw Sarah was tying a tie for Jack. The two of them saw me enter and immediately retreated far away, like Missy and a cat. I didn't pay attention to the ambiguity between them and directly questioned Jack about what happened. I want to know why my project was handed over to Sarah, why the previous partners are no longer collaborating, and why those long-time employees are being laid off. Jack gave a jumbled explanation, saying that I was resting at home now, and it was appropriate to give the position to Sarah because he trusted her. As for the project, he believes that it is a company matter regardless of whose name it is under, and that is not important. As for the employees who were fired, he stated that it was because they were not working seriously and showed disrespect towards their leaders. Some partners alleged inappropriate conduct by Sarah, to which Sarah responded in a normal manner. If I weren't familiar with the old employees and partners who were dismissed, I might be deceived by their words. Those long-time employees have been with me since the beginning, progressing step by step. Although they are direct in making suggestions, it is definitely out of care for the company, and not meant to be disrespectful. As for the partners, they are long-term collaborators, and I am very familiar with their family backgrounds. It will absolutely not be as they have said. I felt the matter could be discussed rationally. But, unexpectedly, as soon as Sarah began to speak, she started crying. Her tears came quickly, almost like a professional actress. As a result, she ran away in tears, and Jack chased after her. Due to my anger and excitement, I ended up having a miscarriage, and in the end, a colleague promptly took me to the hospital. During the hospitalization, Jack only came once that day, and never showed up again. During those days, I thought about many things. I recall our relationship over the years, reflecting on these 5 years of marriage. Gradually, I realized that the love and sense of security Jack provided me were diminishing, and there was even a lack of any attention. The second day of my hospitalization, I saw Sarah's post on social media where she showed off the jewelry Jack had given her. It was a set of jewelry that wasn't expensive, but it shone exceptionally bright. The ring seems to belong to the same collection as our wedding rings. At that moment, I had already made up my mind to get a divorce. Such a marriage, having lost its meaning, should not continue. As I walked out of the room with my suitcase, the 3 people in the living room seemed still unaware of what was happening. When Jack saw the suitcase in my hand, his expression changed immediately. He quickly walked up to me, grabbed my hand that was holding the suitcase, and anxiously asked, "Emma, what are you doing?" I replied calmly, "Can't you tell? I am planning to move out." Jack's eyes widened in disbelief. "Emma, are you serious?" I nodded and said, "Yeah. When do you see me joking about divorce? Why? Everything is clearly going well. Why do we have to get divorced? I really don't understand," I asked. Just as I was about to respond, I noticed Sarah standing by the dining table. She turned to look at us with a proud smile on her face. "Aren't you going to help me?" I said to Sarah. When Jack turned around, the smile on Sarah's face had not faded. In an instant, Jack seemed to understand something. "Emma, I need to explain that Sarah and I are not what you think. You have misunderstood us." I chuckled lightly. "It doesn't matter. The outcome I want is a divorce, and the process is not important." I said this as I snatched the divorce agreement from his hand, flipped to the last page, and directly signed my name. "I believe you have already reviewed the agreement. If there are no issues, please go ahead and sign it. My requests are reasonable, and I haven't taken advantage of you." I handed the pen to Jack, who instinctively took a step back, hid his hands behind his back, and shook his head firmly. Seeing him like this, I frowned slightly. "What? Do you have any other requests?" "No, I just don't want to sign, and I don't want a divorce," he said firmly. "Are you serious?" I asked him coldly, my tone filled with dissatisfaction. He didn't answer. He just stared at me intensely. Helplessly, I shook my head, pushed him away, and walked straight towards the door. Please be prepared for the divorce proceedings. The court notice is expected to be delivered within about a week. I walked in front of Sarah, gently patted her on the shoulder, and encouraged her, saying, "Keep it up. I wish you success soon." These words made her face turn pale instantly. Just as she was about to reach the door, Jack pulled her back. This time I slapped him backhandedly and said angrily, "I'm giving you a chance, so you better make the most. You should have an idea of what kind of person I am." Jack turned his head away after I hit him, stunned and unable to look at me. I didn't hesitate and turned around to leave immediately. I opened the door, put the suitcase in the trunk of the car, and started the vehicle and sped out with a push on the accelerator. I found a hotel first and made a dinner reservation. After finishing my meal, I sent a message to the lawyer I contacted today. "Please help me draft a divorce complaint." The next morning, I hurried to the office. My colleagues were a bit surprised to see me suddenly appear and greeted me with smiles. In response, I smiled at each of them and then had my assistant contact a few shareholders to convene an emergency meeting. After everyone had arrived, I called Jack. Once the call was connected, I could hear that he seemed very happy on the other end. "Emma, where are you? Have you figured it out?" I directly doused him with a bucket of cold water. "You're overthinking it. Hurry to the office. I need to talk to you about something." Jack soon arrived, followed by Sarah. I pointed to the empty chair next to me and asked him to sit down. Then, I looked at the shareholders present and said plainly, "I have decided to divorce Jack and have already started the legal process. After the divorce, I will leave the company, and I will transfer my shares. Everyone present here is a shareholder in the company, and you have the right of first refusal. If anyone is interested, you can express your intention now. If no one needs it, I will seek a professional organization for evaluation, and then sell it to others. Everyone can consider it." As soon as the words were spoken, everyone immediately widened and their eyes in surprise. Several people's gazes shifted back and forth between Jack and me, while Jack looked at me with a face full of sadness. "Emma, why do you have to be this way? We don't need to go to the point of divorce. Let me explain, okay?" Someone interjected, "Yeah. Emma, is there some misunderstanding between you and Jack?" I looked at the person speaking with a blank expression. "If you don't want to buy it, then don't say anything. My marriage with him is our own matter. The reason I called you all here today is to discuss the transfer of shares." The man was taken aback by my words, and his expression turned somewhat unpleasant. At this moment, Sarah spoke up, her voice trembling with tears. "Emma, there's really nothing between Jack and me. You misunderstood. If you mind my relationship with Jack, I can choose to leave the city." "No way." Jack almost instinctively refused, and only after speaking did he realize what he had said. The people present instantly understood and looked at Sarah with disdainful eyes. Feeling the gazes of those around her, Sarah shyly lowered her head. She had already offended many people in the company and was in a difficult situation. Now, with this new incident, she really felt uncertain about how to secure her position in the company in the future. "Everyone, please consider carefully. Those interested within 3 days, please contact me. I will sell at the highest price. If no one contacts me in 3 days, I will sell it to someone else." I paused for a moment and then continued. "In addition, I had decided to resign from the position of vice president, and I wish everyone a bright future." Having said that, I got up and prepared to leave. Jack quickly caught up and stopped. "Emma, can we talk?" As he spoke, he gave a knowing glance to the others, and they wisely left. The conference room was the only two of us left in an instant. I looked at him slowly and asked, "What do you want to say?" "Emma, please let me explain. There's really nothing going on between Sarah and me. You misunderstood me. I only love you." Jack said anxiously, his gaze fixed firmly on me. I stood my ground and looked straight into his eyes. "Jack, I think you should understand that divorce does not mean it only counts if I catch you cheating. Think about it yourself. In these 2 years, have you treated me as your wife?" Jack, opened my mouth as if to say something, yet I couldn't utter a single word. "I'm sorry, I was wrong, Emma. Please forgive me and give me another chance, okay? You were wrong." I gave a disdainful smile. "Do you know where you went wrong?" Jack was once again speechless, seeing him racking his brains, but were able to come up with an answer. I couldn't help but give him another slap. "Jack, You really are impressive. You can handle things effortlessly even when being dismissive. I underestimated you before. Jack looked aggrieved and sighed. Emma, tell me where I went wrong, and I will make sure to change. Okay? It's not good, because you can't change it at all. Jack had a puzzled expression, wondering why. I can definitely change. Sarah and Amy, can you change it? Jack's eyes widened in an instant. But I am innocent with them? I haven't wronged you, really. The time, energy, and resources you have invested in them have long exceeded what is within the scope of me and the company, which means you have already detached yourself from our marriage. Jack frowned, seemingly not understanding what I meant. You still have not realized your mistake. Everything you've done in the name of taking care of her and her daughter, I can't be bothered to mention again. However, those are the promises I made to Harry, and I can't let him down. So you can let me down, is that right? Do you think that I am your wife, and no matter how you ignore and hurt me, I will stay by your side? Sorry. I overthought it. I'm tired now, and don't want to continue arguing with you. Jack lowered his head in contemplation for a while, then raised it, his eyes full of sadness. Emma, is there really no other way for us? Can you not give me another chance? I let out a cold laugh, pushed him aside, and walked away, responding to his final question with my actions. As I walked out of the meeting room, I saw Sarah waiting at the door. She looked at me, a sly smile creeping at the corner of her mouth. Has the negotiation fallen apart? I raised my hand and slapped her, instantly attracting the attention of many people around us. I ruthlessly exposed her tricks and told her that she should be grateful to have met Harry, as he had done everything to protect her. I leaned closer to her and whispered, for his sake I'm kindly reminding you not to take advantage, and then act innocent. If I really wanted to deal with you, Jack stopped me. Do you think that if I were to deal with you, he would go against me for his sake? Sarah's body trembled slightly. When she looked at me again, her eyes were filled with fear. I smiled and said with satisfaction, that's more like it. This expression on your face is exactly how you should look. After saying that, I strode away. I could hear whispers behind me very clearly. They were criticizing Sarah for being shameless and praising me for being handsome. I went to the director's office and asked her to provide me with a resignation certificate. After leaving the company, I returned to the hotel and called my parents to tell them that I was going to divorce Jack. The parents on the other end of the phone were briefly surprised, and calmly said, "All right, you can decide this for yourself. Your parents know what kind of person you are. And the fact that you chose to get a divorce shows that he wasn't good enough." They recalled that when I married Jack, although he had some ability, he was not troubled by my mother-in-law. Since he doesn't know how to cherish you, let's get a divorce. I believe my precious daughter will definitely find a better future. Both of my parents are teachers, and they have open-minded thoughts, even to the point of being overly tolerant. They casually chatted for a bit and checked on their health before hanging up the phone. At the moment I hung up, tears began to flow uncontrollably. I thought I had already given up on Jack, but when faced with my parents' concern, their casual words made my once strong heart collapse in an instant. In the days that followed, Jack was quite considerate and did not disturb me. He only called me after the court summons was delivered to him. On the phone, his voice sounded hoarse and weak, as if he were a long-term patient who had not yet recovered. "Emma, I received the subpoena. Do you really want to get a divorce from me?" When he called, I thought he just wanted to mediate, but I didn't expect things to escalate to this point. He seemed to think I was joking. "Jack, if you're sick, go get treated. Stop causing trouble." And hanging up. "See you in court." Just as I was about to hang up, I heard him say, "Emma, let's meet up and talk things over. If we can resolve it, there's no need to take it to court." This sentence makes me feel that he is willing to mediate. With such expectations, I went to meet him. I was shocked by the changes in Jack after not seeing him for a week. He has lost a lot of weight. His cheeks are sunken, his eyes are vacant, his face is shiny with oil, and his stubble makes him look like a beggar. I frowned and stared at him. "What do you mean by dressing like this? Are you trying to gain sympathy, or do you want everyone to think I'm ruthless, disregarding our marital bond and leading you to become who you are now?" "No, I didn't mean that. You've misunderstood me." "Fine. If you say it's not, then it's not. Just don't use me to create an image of deep feelings. I looked at him and asked, have you made up your mind? If you're willing to sign, we can go through the motions smoothly and part ways amicably, which would serve as closure to this relationship. Emma, I really want to know how you felt when you made the decision to divorce me. Isn't there a hint of reluctance or sadness? He talked a lot, but I still answered the question. I've experienced it, but I've suppressed it all. I looked at him and said, if you just want to talk about this, then I can leave now. Jack on the opposite side sneered contemptuously, letting out a hollow laugh. Emma, I've been thinking a lot these past few days, and I've gradually come to realize where I went wrong. I didn't express myself clearly enough. I thought that as long as I took good care of Sarah and her daughter, it would help alleviate my feelings of guilt and allow me to ignore your presence. I'm really sorry. I always believed that if I treated Sarah and her daughter a little better, I could make it up to Harry. But I forgot that people's hearts are easily swayed and never seem to be satisfied. Emma, I'm sorry. I looked at him and finally smiled. It's truly rare to realize that. I thought you would be like a piece of wood, taking everything for granted. Jack looked at me with a look of deep guilt. Was it my own foolishness for not seeing it clearly, or did he only realize these things after seeing a psychologist? And I now understand where I went wrong. I will send Sarah and her daughter away. Can you give me one more chance? Before I could respond, Sarah suddenly rushed out from the corner. She swung her hand towards me, but Jack quickly grabbed it. Jack pushed her down to the ground and glared at Sarah, saying, what are you doing here? Who let you come? Why can I come? You clearly said you would take care of us mother and daughter. Now that this annoying guy is gone, isn't it better? What do you want to do now? Sarah cried out without any composure, and people around her started to cast their glances in this direction. I take care of you because I promised Harry. Don't get too smug coming in front of my wife to give your opinions. That's truly arrogant. Why are you holding on so tightly when your wife is about to divorce you? After we go back, once you get divorced, wouldn't it be nice for the three of us to live happily together? Am I not good enough for you? Am I not gentle enough? Why don't you turn back and look at me? You snap. Before Sarah could finish her sentence, Jack interrupted her with a slap, causing all her words to be forced back into her gut. Shut up and stop. Jack turned to me and said, Emma, don't listen to her. There's nothing between me and her. I have always loved you. The woman on the ground was taken aback for a moment, and then sneered, Jack, who is really talking nonsense here? Had you forgotten the tenderness on my bed? As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding area fell silent. Jack's face turned red with anger as he wanted to raise his hand to teach Sarah a lesson, but I stopped him just in time. Keep talking, I said lightly. Jack nervously wanted to explain, but Sarah interrupted him first. We've been together for 6 months, and especially during the 3 months of your pregnancy, he was always in my bed. Didn't you expect that? I shook my head slightly, fully aware but just unwilling to admit. I've always felt that he is not the kind of brother who would betray, and I would even be willing to risk my life for him. But I did indeed catch the scent of you on him multiple times. Sarah laughed. You really think too highly of him. He not only betrayed the brother who died to save him, but also climbed into the bed of his brother's widow, further betraying the relationship you both had for many years. How long have you been together? 9 years, right? After 9 years of relationship and 5 years of marriage, he climbed into bed without any hesitation. What nonsense are you talking about, you shameless person? Jack questioned angrily. I stared at him expressionlessly. Are you not going to sign it now? Are you waiting for me to present more evidence to ensure your complete downfall? Jack slumped onto the sofa, his head down, not daring to meet my gaze. Emma, I'm sorry, he said in a low voice. I coldly responded that you should apologize to that brother who sacrificed himself to save you. Be careful, or Harry might come to settle the score with you in the middle of the night. After I finished speaking, I stood up and left without looking back. In the end, Jack and I did not go to court. The day before the hearing, he expressed his willingness to mediate the divorce. With the help of the mediator, we met again and successfully obtained the divorce certificate. Jack's attitude leaves me perplexed. Is he pretending to be deep and caring, or has he realized his mistakes? He actually left 80 of his assets to me in the divorce agreement. He looked at me and tried to force a smile, saying that this is all that you deserve. After all, you're pregnant, and it's only natural. As an orphan, Jack naturally longs for a complete family and hopes to have a child of his own. He said he hadn't mentioned the child before, as he was worried that I might act out of anger towards the child. Under his expectant gaze, I stood up, gently stroked my flat belly, and told him that the child was gone. His face instantly turned pale, losing all its color. He staggered toward me and asked, Why did you terminate our child? I never thought I would hurt you and the child. I smiled calmly and told him that the child was not one I actively aborted, but rather a spontaneous miscarriage. Do you know why? Jack was momentarily silent, just staring blankly at me. I told him that I went to the company that day to look for you and inquire about the matter. And after the argument, I was so angry that the child was miscarried. It's impossible. How could this happen? I didn't. And he looked at me with an expression of disbelief. I turned to the secretary behind him and smiled slightly. Secretary Lee, you should know, after all, you were the one who took me to the hospital. Hearing these words, Jack suddenly turned around and fixed his gaze on Secretary Lee, his expression conveying a warning that if he dared to lie, there would be consequences. Jack, Secretary Lee said, speaking incoherently, what Emma said is true. I took her to the hospital, and I saw the receipt when I paid the bill. The child is really gone. If you don't believe it, we can verify it. Secretary Lee has been with Jack for many years and knows his character well. He would not lie about this matter. When Jack heard Secretary Lee's words, he felt all the strength drain out of his body, and he weakly collapsed to the ground. He originally thought that as long as he didn't mention the child and tried to downplay the child's existence, he could protect the child. Unexpectedly, the child was gone from beginning to end. No wonder you stayed in the hospital for so long. It turns out that his words became weaker, and his voice gradually trailed off. In the end, he could only weakly lower his head, his gaze dim. I ignored his presence, gathered my documents and agreements, and strode out with my lawyer. I booked a plane ticket, planning to go out and relax for a while before looking for a job when I returned. In the following month or so, I indulged in enjoyment outside. I went to the vast grasslands and enjoyed the fun of grass sliding. Then, I saw the vast ocean once again and finally fulfilled my dream of seeing the sea. In addition to the sunlit mountains and the misty rain of Jiangdin's romantic ancient capital and historical sites, I traveled for over a month and only returns to my life afterward. I plan to sell several properties under my name and then return to my hometown to look for a job or open a few small shops so I can live a good life with my parents. Before long, after the house was listed, I received a message from the agent. The agent smiled and told me that someone was very interested in these houses and was willing to pay a high price for them. I feel somewhat confused and want to know who it is. When I saw the information sent by the other party, I realized that the person wanting to buy the house was actually Jack. I didn't say much about it. I am willing to sell. He is willing to buy. And he is even willing to pay a high price. Of course, I am extremely pleased. After finishing up with the house, and a few old friends for a simple meal before preparing to leave. On the day I finished packing my luggage, I ran into Jack downstairs. He has lost a lot of weight compared to before, and he looks completely different from how he used to be. I originally planned to ignore him, but he still blocked my way. He looked at me and forced a smile. As soon as he spoke, his voice was very hoarse. Emma, how have you been lately? I spread my palm and turned in a circle saying, do I look bad like this? Jack was taken aback. Of course, he could tell that I was doing well, that it was much better than the years I spent married to him. During that time, I was busy with the company, dedicating all my energy to him, and I appeared quite distant. Now, free from constraints, I dress and appear younger, with a smile on my face and better skin condition. He nodded, seeming to want to say something but unable to find the words. In the end, he stammered, Emma, I'm getting married to Sarah. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. At that time, the situation was so chaotic that I thought they had no future together. After all, Jack had once said that he had already expelled the mother and daughter duo. I never expected that I would be getting married now, It seems that this isn't adequately true love. I really want to know if Harry would be so furious to jump out of his coffin if he knew that the brother he desperately protected was going to marry his wife. Congratulations to you all. I won't be attending, and you won't be missing my gift. I just hope that when you visit Harry's grave in the future, you won't be scared by him. My words were quite sarcastic, and Jack could naturally tell what I meant. He lowered his head, not daring to meet my gaze. After a moment of standoff, I prepared to walk around him and leave, but he stopped me again. I frowned at him, not understanding what he wanted to say again. Emma is pregnant. Sarah is pregnant. Although I was surprised, it was to be expected. Emma, you can rest assured that I will never let go of those who have hurt you and the child. Neither she nor I will have a good ending. That child won't be born, believe me. I looked at him speechlessly. What do these have to do with me? Do whatever you want. Just step aside. I'm in a hurry to catch my flight. Jack's eyes glowed with a red light as he gazed intensely at me and tentatively asked, Emma, can you hug me one last time? I quickly stepped back and said coldly, Stay away from me. It's too dirty. These 3 words made Jack panic instantly. He wanted to explain, but he couldn't find the words. In the end, he just opened his mouth and softly said goodbye. I bypassed him and headed straight for the airport. After returning to my hometown, I lived with my parents. My parents naturally didn't ask too much about Jack, and our family of 3 lived a simple and happy life. Later, I opened a flower shop at a coffee shop, and I also invested in several projects, becoming a true investor. In fact, my professional abilities are not inferior to those of Jack and Harry, as we all attended the same school. I remember when we first collaborated on a professional quiz assignment, that work was even used as a template and spread throughout the entire department. At that time, the 3 of us had already gained some recognition, and the teachers in the school indicated that if we had ideas we wanted to implement, they were willing to provide funding support. In the end, we decided to decline and sold the project proposal to the school, earning our first pot of gold in life. Looking back at that time, we were truly carefree and full of youthful energy. Looking back at the present, it truly feels like everything has changed and people have moved on. Whenever I think of the past, I always feel that I was truly blind. Fortunately, all of this is behind us now. About half a year after I returned to my country, I received a call from an unknown number. The other party claimed to be a lawyer and said that Jack had left me some money. I didn't think much about it and simply declined, donating it to the Children's Aid Foundation. The other party didn't expect me to respond like that and confirmed twice before hanging up the phone. That night, I received a message from a former colleague. Emma, you have no idea how many insane things that fool did after you left. Everyone in the company thinks he's acting strangely. Emma, I tell you, Jack pushed Sarah down the stairs when she was 6 months pregnant, resulting in her miscarriage and severe bleeding. She nearly didn't make it. I felt a surge of fear as I recalled what Jack had said the last time I saw him. The so-called refusal to let himself and Sarah go turned out to mean this. Later, my colleague talked to me for over an hour, and I gained a general understanding of Jack and Sarah's situation. Since they got married, Jack has completely changed. He either hits and abuses Sarah or refuses to feed her. Sarah asked Jack why he treated her this way, but Jack coldly responded that her situation was a result of her own actions. Later, Jack even asked Sarah to send Amy to the orphanage, claiming that if she wanted to be good with him, she had to get rid of the child, as he only wanted a unique world for the 2 of them. Jack talked a lot, and hid a lot. Sarah didn't know if she really couldn't stand it, or if she was just being obedient. But in the end, she still sent Amy to the orphanage. Afterwards, Jack was slightly better towards Sarah, but there was no significant change. Until Sarah was 6 months pregnant, Jack actually pushed her downstairs. Jack said with a distorted expression, "We all deserve this. We need to atone for Emma and Harry." In her despair, Sarah pleaded with him to save her. And just as she was about to lose consciousness, Jack dialed 120. He claimed that he wouldn't let Sarah die easily. He wanted to keep her by his side, tormenting her day by day, so that they would share their hatred until the very end. At that moment, Sarah finally realized that it was all part of Jack's scheme. He previously expressed regret, but it was all lies, merely to deceive her into marrying him. and keep her tightly bound to his side. After being discharged from the hospital, Sarah had a huge argument with Jack and wanted a divorce, but Jack beat her badly. Jack didn't use his full strength, he simply inflicted physical harm. Although the pain is unbearable, it will not leave any marks or scars. After 3 months of mutual torment, one night Sarah stabbed Jack while he was asleep. However, Jack did not die. Instead, he seemed very happy. He smiled at Sarah and said, "You did well. You finally learned how to fight back." Jack's first words upon waking up were, "We don't want to kill each other, and we won't get divorced. Let's just keep torturing each other like this." At that moment, Sarah realized that Jack had gone mad. She wanted to survive, but was haunted by Jack's shadow and torment. She cannot die, nor can she escape. This life is destined to be like this. Jack is the same. If Sarah does not resist, he will torment himself. Gradually, both of them became crazy, and the ways they tortured each other grew increasingly varied, making them almost regular visitors to the hospital. Hearing my colleague say this, I could only find it amusing. However, this is not bad. The wicked will ultimately face the consequences of their actions. May they be locked up for their entire lives. I am going to date my little puppy brother now. After all, I have quite a few admirers.